Hello, everyone. I'm Margherita Crystal Lotus, and I'm so excited that you're watching Connections this week. Heidi and I have been doing this now for the last 5 months, and she's away today. So we have an amazing guest here today. Her name is Kate Barbour. Hello, Kate.
Hello, Margherita.
So let me introduce Kate to you. Kate Barbour is a singer and a voice coach. She was born in Czechoslovakia in 1966, 2 years before the Russian invasion, an event that dramatically affected her early life. So singing has always been a way of expressing her inner joy as well as coping with traumatic life experiences. So she focused mainly on coaching people who are told not to sing. And she says heart-centered singing and living is the practical life philosophy that she follows. Okay, what do you have to say about that, Kate?
Yeah, it's very nice to hear it expressed in these words, because of course I've been doing this intuitively for years, but only lately, about 5 years ago, I started really putting it into words when I started my coaching, because you have to communicate clearly to people what you are actually about. So heart-centered living and singing is something about living an authentic life, not a life of a consumer, of a professional. I mean, not a life of playing roles only, but really becoming a real person and a whole person. And I'm trying to help people who are ready for it to discover this incredible power inside each individual that comes out of authentic feeling and authentic expression. Yeah. And I love doing it through the voice, but of course you can do it through other media, through your body, through your art. It's actually exactly the same. I'm just using the medium of the human voice.
Yeah. So in this episode of Connections, we're going to discuss freeing anger by singing. And also when that happens, then it's an opportunity to find our true identity. And I know, Kate, you have had a lot of experiences from your childhood and from Czechoslovakia. Would you tell us a little bit how you came by this gift of singing and understanding that singing actually helps to resolve anger?
I would say that my life started very dramatically, as you mentioned, but it wasn't only the invasion of the Russian soldiers in Prague, but it was also because my family was so affected by that it split tragically. My biological father, he left to Sweden, and we were 2 children left with a mother who was very young. And it was a very difficult situation, because only the situation in Czechoslovakia was so difficult at that times. So having deal with that, with such a situation was really very, very difficult. But of course, every soul that comes to the earth has a fantastic power inside to survive and to thrive. So I wasn't a child who was only crying and trying to survive, but of course, where there was an opportunity of peace and play in the midst of all that, I was happy, and singing and using my voice and music was a natural part of my life from the beginning. I must say that both of my parents they were musicians, and they met at Prague's conservatory. So music and singing was part of our home environment from the beginning, and that's where I found my little shelter, my little world.
That's so cool to express it like that, because I can understand many people who have had traumatic experiences, and then they find something that they can tend to, they can exist with, and that expresses in a way how the inner feelings are. Mm-hmm. Would you say that's true?
But there was another thing that I discovered, because I was such a talented singer from the beginning, with a perfect pitch and voice with a big range, and the music memory of melodies and also words. I discovered that when I was singing from my traumatized family, they enjoyed it so much. And it was not about, this kind of, our little Kate, she's so talented, she's nice. I felt that I really had an impact on the atmosphere in the family. I was aware of it. And it was because when I started singing, I was in a place inside me which was completely peaceful and completely playful and completely secure. And still I find it like a miracle, because when I think back, my family situation was everything but safe. But I still could connect to that place. As a little child, I knew nothing. It was really instinctive, and I still could have that.
So when did you actually start singing? How old were you?
I think I was 2.5, 3 years old. I don't know exactly, but I think so. I started talking very early on.
Yeah, so, but having that awareness already at that young age, that's amazing.
I think it saved my life, because I must say it's very hard for me to talk about it, but the situation was sometimes so bad, not on the surface, but underneath, because I know that my mother, she was highly stressed by all this situation, trying to survive financially, trying to cope with 2 small kids, and my brother was really hit by that very, very badly. He had a strange behavior sometimes, it was, and my mother was so young because she married when she was 17. So I think I had suicidal tendencies. I wanted to jump out of the window because I wanted to come out of the situation.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I found that I am switching on and off from the material reality, the reality in 3D, to a reality which was different. But I could do it without going through a physical death, and that was through singing. But still, I was confused sometimes. When the situation was really stressful, I did have the tendencies to try. I don't know whether I wanted to commit suicide. We were living on the 11th floor, and I was saying that I want to jump out. And of course, I don't know why I was saying it. Was I saying it because I wanted to have attention? Maybe, but I wanted to fly out from the situation.
I think this experience many other people have from that time, and so I think that's kind of normal in a very stressful. I mean, imagine you have tanks and people and I don't know, another foreign power that's there, and then you trying to exist there. I know myself, because I was married to a Czech man also for several years, so I heard his story also about how the actual climate and atmosphere was at that very time. and it wasn't easy for the people. So I could really understand. But it also gives us a really deep insight when we can have an experience of something like that. It's like a real thing, right? But just that it happens on a massive scale, and do something with it, like you found, or even you were sent there to actually give that gift of your singing to the people who were there. It's possible, right?
And you know, the love for singing started from that point, a love for music, because I was in a different place inside. And when you are in that peaceful, playful, wonderful place, you look at the world and you see only possibilities.
Yes.
And that's where the creativity hits. And I was a very creative, and still I am a creative person. You see the world as a beautiful place, but of course there is a contrast. There is the reality of the society and people around you, and also there is a reality of your little ego and the shadow that is actually putting barrier there to enter this world. Yeah. So though I discovered this fantastic world, and the connection with the physical world, I wasn't able to live at that place all the time, of course. Otherwise, I would be a saint.
Yeah, I think that at some point in our lives, we are all sort of embraced by this saint energy, and then we're there for another person or for ourselves. So I'm really confident that, not that I'm a saint or anything like that, but at some points in our lives, we are actually embraced by this energy from spirit, from this other place, from our source. And when that comes in full force, then we have that inner sanctum, that inner peaceful energy that's accessible to everyone, but we just have to find the access point. And I think you have found one access point, and that is singing. So tell us a little bit about how it feels like to actually express the feelings of the emotions and the anger. How does that feel for you?
Singing is a physical, spiritual, and mental experience. It's the whole package. And living is also a whole package if we embrace ourselves as the whole. So when we live through our senses, through our body, through our intellect, through our emotions, and we have to embrace all these tools. Singing is a wonderful way of connecting these tools together, because through our education we are taught to switch off certain parts. As you know, there is not a big effort in education about how to manage emotions, how to express them. The big emphasis is on the intellect.
Yes, I do agree with you on that. And like the whole of the internet is all about the, efficiency and a lot of information. But what really turns people on is when there is emotion there, when there is the passion there, or look at all the violent movies. It's all, most of them are negative emotions, but it's very exciting because people can actually express through watching these violent scenes, let's say in horror movies and war movies or whatever. That is a sort of a pseudo experience to express it. And now you have this method that you've found this way by actually singing, which is everyone can do it, right?
Mm-hmm. But when we go back to the history, singing has been used as a tool for evolution, for change, for centuries. There are two aspects of it. One is finding your centeredness, finding harmony, finding the connection with the spiritual world, through mantra singing, praying, through psalms in the Christian tradition. Singing is a big part of any religious tradition. And then we have singing as a fantastic tool for people to create social change. Think about the American slaves, the black slaves. How did they do? How did they work with that anger and frustration, being enslaved? How did they create the change? They used singing. Mm-hmm. On the what do you call it? Sugar plants.
Yeah,
that's the tradition of Negro spiritual singing come out of it. If they let the anger loose, they would die, because the enemy, the people who enslaved them, they were stronger. So they had to do it differently, and they did it through the spiritual path, through uniting themselves as a group, but they had a real cause. And think about how much energy the Negro spiritual music has till today. The issue is not there anymore, but the power is still there. So but that was the anger.
For other issues that is similar, right? Because we might be feeling enslaved in our emotions, and many people feel that. So it is still helpful for related situations, right?
Mm-hmm. So that was an example from history, and we can go straight to your individual life. Let's say that there is something in your life, in your private life, that makes you really angry. If you let the anger to surface, if you don't suppress it, because it's the worst thing that you can do, to suppress the anger and say it doesn't exist, then you don't have chance to do anything about your situation, and then you get depressed. But when you embrace the anger, and instead of letting the anger to control your life and even have negative impact on your relationships, you observe the anger. You almost can ask, what is the message? And the body work through singing is helping you to be able to make a distinction between your awareness, the self that observes, and your feelings and emotions. So you are actually not being snapped or eaten or controlled by anger. Because the people, when they feel anger, they come out of consciousness, and they cannot think, and they just act. Especially men have this problem. They start destroying things or get into fights, absolutely out of control. But when you start working with anger as energy, and you are present in it, which singing can help you so much with, then anger can be a teacher. It can be a gift to you, because it shows you, look, something is not right about my life, not about me, about a situation, and I need to look at it. Think about if somebody manipulates with you, cheating on you, but you cannot put a finger on it. But you feel, your body feels it, instinctively you feel that person, you are angry with that person. It can be your mother, for example, because mothers, they have the access to their daughters so beautifully. She can be doing something to you which is really not good for you, but you are in your helpless self when you communicate with her, and you cannot actually do anything about it. So you get angry. and you say, why I'm angry with this poor old woman? You know, she's not doing this consciously, but the anger is telling you that something is not right and you have to look at it. Because if you don't, you just swallow it and then you start acting out of your ego, not out of your authentic self. So it's very important to understand that anger is either good or bad. It's just energy that indicates something.
I'm sorry about the little noise here that we had. It's a squirrel that has moved in with me for the last 5 days, and now she's singing there in the corner. And even my cat hasn't gotten rid of her, or hopefully she's not going to get to the little squirrel because I want it safely out. But now during this, what you're talking, the squirrel is just squinting and squinting there in the corner behind the bookshelf there.
She wants to be part of the hangout on air.
Yeah. And we named her, or Kate named her Soprano. So if you hear this noise, listen in, and the main message of squirrel apparently is to being playful.
Yes.
And I want to tie in back here with the connection with our mothers or grandmothers. They have a huge influence on us. And I mean, I love my mother and both my grandmothers, and my one grandmother was so influential in my life. She was an artist, or both of them were. And I just think back of them with such a blessing in my heart. But that's not so for everyone, right? Kate, would you share a little bit what happened in your family?
I would go back to my great-grandmother. That means, I have to say, that was the when she was an adult and she became a mother, it was during the First World War. She became pregnant during that time, but she wasn't married. And her husband, her partner, was in captivity somewhere in Russia. She was a prisoner of war, and my mother, my great grandmother, was pregnant, and she gave a birth to my grandmother in a little village in south of Bohemia, and she suffered very badly from the trauma of the war, not having the partner, but there was another horrible thing because it was a stigma that time. You were supposed to be married. So when my grandmother grew up, she was called bad names because she was not born into marriage. Very sad. And what happened as a reaction with my great-grandmother, that she was putting that the negativity of the situation onto my grandmother, which is it's so sad, that this happens. But my great grandfather, he came back from the war and they married, so they were a whole family. But still, my great grandmother, she probably didn't overcome it because she was very bad to my grandmother. I don't want to go into the details because, funnily enough, my grandmother told me the story when I was maybe 7. I don't know why. It was absolutely inappropriate telling anything like that to a small child, but it was probably because of my connection with the other world. I was so connected to people, I had empathy, like it was my gift. So she wanted to tell this to a person who is aware, who's got a heart, who's listening. And I think there was nobody in her environment who listened but me. So I heard the story, and my grandmother, she was a very, she was a person intelligent, full of life, and she had so much energy, and that energy didn't have any outlet. You know, she had a big voice. She also sang not beautifully but powerfully, and her psychological problems because of that background surfaced into aggressive behavior. Because think about, she was born in the midst of the First World War, and then when she was young and married my grandfather, it was the Second World War. And also she lost her first child. What?
Yeah, it's very tough to be having these situations happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have an admiration for my great-grandmother and my grandmother, that they coped with the situation the way they did, because in spite of all the damage that they passed on to the next generation, which they did, but it was subconscious because they couldn't deal with that. But still, I think that if I had been in that situation, I maybe wouldn't have created anything better, because it was, you know, these two big world wars were horrible. So so my grandmother was very angry, and she was expressing her anger, and she was very powerful, and she was like a dictator in the family. And that made my mother being completely paralyzed by any situation where a person is angry. She couldn't cope with anger because of her very angry and aggressive mother.
Yeah, that's I think that's we're getting a thread here to listen up to, because it's not that person that was angry and we grew up in a very bad situation, but to have an understanding where it came from. Maybe many people are also abused as small children that are in our age now, but it taken out of context. So I'm really, really appreciating you sharing that story, so that we have like an understanding of how these behaviors, these anger control patterns and the aggressive behaviors can actually, they originate somewhere in the past, and now we're seeing the progression, so that we can know that, yeah, they had a really horrible situation themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did maybe not the best thing that they could do, but maybe they did the best thing they could do for the next generation coming, right?
Yes, it's just that I'm lucky enough that because of my experiences, the great experiences I had, and the fantastic people I met in my life, I was able to access the part of me which is very helpful, which can overcome, which can also ask for help. And I would like to connect to your talks about the ego.
Yeah, those talks are really, really powerful. Many people have really liked them, so we're gonna go back into that in another episode, maybe.
Yeah, but it's only when you deal with your ego you can really evolve as a human being, because that's only then you are starting to listen to your inner voice, which is the higher self. You know, the wisdom. We all have the wisdom inside, but we have to find time and energy to reconnect with it. And now we can speak about singing again.
Yeah, like, so tell us now about what you do now with your client. How do you start with somebody who doesn't think that they can sing? What's happening? And can you tell us a story about somebody that you have coached and their progress?
Yes, I have lots of stories, but let's take this one. It's about 3 years ago. There was a young woman who came to me, and she wanted to sing. And she told me that she is a climber, She can climb mountains. She was a manager in a big corporation, so she was able to give fantastic presentations. She really did very well for herself. But there was one thing she wanted to change in her life, and it's fear of singing. So that was a perfect case for me. So we started doing the work, and because this woman is so talented in other areas, so it was very interesting for me. She immediately understood that we are going to work with breathing and with the body. And because she did Tai Chi and yoga and other things, and she's a fantastic painter as well, she was really on the way from the beginning. And still, we had big challenges because she needed to become aware that there is a difference between the thoughts that appear when she starts singing. You know, when she started singing, she had these thoughts that the voice wasn't perfect. It shouldn't be sounding like this. You know, all these critical thoughts started appearing. And the first thing we had to do is to separate the thoughts of her own existence, of the awareness. There are thoughts, and there is you sounding. So I really love this work because I had to make horrible noises and tell her, you know, I'm a free being, I'm a free spirit. I can make horrible noises and really enjoy it. And when she saw me, like the playful squirrel, making these squirrel noises, she thought it was fantastic. And I discovered that she loves animals, so she could imitate animals. So through her imitation of animals, we got rid of her blockage of not making perfect sound. And you can listen to her singing on my website, singlikealark.com. I think, I don't know in which section it is, but it's easy to find as an example. And her voice is actually so beautiful. So I don't know who told her, who traumatized her. Yeah, I know actually where it happened. It was at school. Horrible thing. She was asked to come in front of the class and sing. And her being a perfectionist, she's a Virgo, you know, she was born in September. She got a very bad mark for her singing. And she was humiliated in front of the whole class. And that's where the blockage started. How can anybody can do this to another human being? I can't understand, but it happened. But she's free now.
Thank God.
And still, you know, she is a person who developed the other areas in her life so beautifully. And I'm thinking about people who are so blocked by their anger and fear that they don't develop any areas, you know, of their lives properly.
I like that comment because this is really true, and I see that in my clients too, that something like that, being humiliated or shamed or shunned or something like that, it makes a huge impact. And so when we start to begin to heal that, then all other areas in your life or in the life comes alive, because we brought that piece of us forward in time and working with you know, healing it. It's incredibly powerful. Yeah. So how long time did that take for her to actually recover, heal this?
I think that the major work had been done during 1 year, and then she started singing better and better, and the recording was made after 3 years. But her life changed so dramatically because of the singing. She was single before, and during the time I was coaching her, she met her partner, and when she was doing the recording, she was actually pregnant.
Wow! So you could start a dating service there. Come and sing and get married.
I don't know, but I think it's wonderful to see that a lot of my clients, they have changed their lives. The singing is not the cause of it. It's just something that stimulates the process, because you are unblocking your energies in your body and your mind. You become more aware. So it has to materialize somehow in your reality, that change.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that indirectness, actually.
Yes. Well, you have to approach, like for anyone who's listening, yeah, you have to approach your traumas or the wounds that you have in the way you can. And I think that the method of singing sounds great, literally. And if I can overcome some of my hang-ups about singing and actually making noises and just express that thing, we also do that in some of the retreats and stuff we do. But I mean, I'm not a voice coach as such, but we've explored some of these things with expressing sound. But you've really made an art of this, I think, Kate.
Oh, I just love that. But to be honest, it's not a science. It's actually so easy and simple. You can make a science out of it. You can measure it in a laboratory, I think, because the vibrational medicine now is showing the results of how you can change vibrations in your body and how it heals. So there is a lot of evidence and connection between music and singing healing. But there is another fantastic tool in singing which I'm using, and it's breathing. Breathing connects you both with your body and with the spiritual world, or with the cosmic world, with the universe, because prana, because the air is what keeps us alive. It's the vital source of life, light and prana. And when you get in touch with that vital source of life, you become alive. The problem is that people don't breathe. They breathe very badly. I mean, they breathe, but not efficiently. And it's all connected to, the way you breathe. You either helping your immune system to work well, or you are not helping. And also, breathing is the way how to manage emotions. Think about it. If you're very stressed, very angry, you stop breathing. Your breathing pattern changes. Your heart starting to pump. It's and how do you manage that? You start breathing deeply. Then you can take the message of your anger, and actually the message can be very important. Think about my client. She needed to understand that it was okay. She was very angry with the teacher. Instead of turning that anger on herself and saying, "You are not good enough."
Yeah. We can recognize that many of us have these. Yeah, I should be better, or I'm not perfect. Yeah. So yeah, that could create anger, and then of course when the anger would suppress it inside, it can have all kinds of nasty things inside of us. Yeah, for sure.
And the worst is when you suppress it.
Yeah.
Because your body becomes ill. because anger is an energy. When it comes out of your ego, it's really misleading, because ego is telling you you are being threatened.
Yeah, she's singing again, the squirrel.
I can hear it. I don't think that she has a problem with anger.
Yeah.
She's enjoying herself.
Well, she shows the playfulness that we can do and making noises like that. Thank you, squirrel.
Yes, but she's reminding us about this conversation, that if you want to be free and harmony, playful and creative, you mustn't suppress your anger, because if you do, it will disturb your balance, your harmony. It will be under the surface. So that's why it is so inappropriate to suppress your anger, because it actually causes you to feel uncomfortable all the time, all the time. So if you deal with anger in a constructive way, you make it into, for example, an energy for change, and you go for it, and it becomes passion and love, and it gives you patience. It makes you patient. Then you use the equipment, the tool of anger in a correct way, and then you can play. But because your situation, your life situation has been dealt with. But if you use anger in a bad way, you suppress it, or you just let it run your life, then you cause a lot of damage to yourself and to other people.
Yeah, and little soprano here is doing a concert right now. So
she agrees.
Thank you for that. So we're coming sort of to the end here, Kate, and what do you suggest a person should do if they want to actually explore further what you teach? Can you tell us about that?
I didn't hear the last word. Can you repeat it?
Can you tell us if somebody is interested to work with you, what they can do, or what you would start with them?
The best would be to contact me through my email, kate@singlikealark.com, and then you just send me an email and write your story. You want to sing, you are a singer, or you are not a singer, you are a non-singer who would love to explore more about singing, and I will reply to you, and we can set up a meeting first over Skype, but if you live in Scotland, we can meet physically, or I visit Prague regularly, so we can meet in Prague, and we start from there.
Okay.
I can, of course, I offer individual sessions, but I also run seminars and groups. But just now, because I moved from Prague to Scotland, I'm taking a little bit time out to do more online communication, which this Hangout is part of. And I am in a stage of preparing new set of seminars and courses.
Yes. Yeah, so you could go to Kate's website, singlikealark.com, right?
And again, lark is a free being, free creature. And singing like a lark is not about singing so beautifully. Of course, it comes too. But it's about being free, being out of the cage of your ego, of your anger, of your fear, whatever controls you, and living truly a free life of thriving and evolution, and not being constrained all the time by, I'll express it a little bluntly, by the old rubbish.
I love that. Let's get rid of that old rubbish. Yes.
Exactly.
It has been such a delight, Kate, for having you here on Connections this week. And maybe we can persuade you to come and show more about what your talents are at another time. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. And almost I have to say thank you for Soprano to be with us as well, because it reminded me about the other side of life, which is very important to show even during this kind of discussion when we are talking about painful and traumatic experiences, because there are two sides to life.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. And we're seeing you next week on Thursdays, 9 a.m. on Eastern Standard, or in 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock in Europe. The times changed so much there. But anyway, thank you and see you next week.